Before I start the video, I want to say that a lot of people watch my videos without a subscription. If my content resonates with you, you could subscribe to the channel. Thus YouTube would promote it more, which in turn would motivate me to release and improve content more often. Thank you. As I stepped into the dense forest of northern Australia, I felt the refreshing scent of the earth and the rustling of leaves beneath my feet. It was a beautiful day, and I had decided to go for a walk to explore the natural beauty of the area. As I walked deeper into the forest, I couldn't help but admire the tall trees and the rays of sunlight that managed to peek through the leaves. Suddenly, my peaceful walk was interrupted by a loud noise. I turned around to see a man standing there, blocking my path. His face was hidden behind a black mask, and his eyes were cold and menacing. Before I could react, he pounced on me and pinned me to the ground. I struggled to break free, but his grip was too strong. The man started to tear at my clothes and attempted to commit unspeakable acts of violence against me. I screamed for help, but the dense forest swallowed my voice, and no one came to my aid. I thought my life was over, but in that moment, I decided to fight back. I summoned all my strength and kicked the man with all my might. He stumbled back, giving me the chance to get back on my feet and run as fast as I could. My heart was pounding as I ran, but I didn't stop until I reached the safety of my car. I drove straight to the nearest police station, where I reported the incident and gave them a description of the attacker. The police acted swiftly, and within a few days, they had caught the man who had attacked me. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison for his heinous crimes. The trial was a harrowing experience for me. I had to relive the traumatic incident over and over again. But I knew that it was important to speak out and seek justice, not just for myself, but for all the women who had been victims of such crimes. Over the years, I have struggled with the aftermath of the attack. The memories still haunt me, and I often have nightmares about the man who tried to hurt me. But I have also found strength and resilience in the face of adversity. My opinion? I can say that the actions in the story are horrifying and disturbing. The woman's bravery and resilience in fighting back and seeking justice are commendable, and it is important to raise awareness and take action. In 2013, a group of tourists visited a forest in northern Germany. The forest was known for its picturesque scenery, and the tourists were excited to experience it firsthand. However, little did they know that this beautiful day would soon turn into a nightmare. As they were walking, they heard a rustling in the bushes. The sound was accompanied by the smell of tobacco and alcohol, which immediately put them on edge. Suddenly, a man emerged from the bushes and began yelling at them. The tourists were taken aback by the sudden outburst, but before they could react, the man pulled out a knife and started attacking them. 2 of the tourists were killed on the spot, while 2 others were seriously injured. The rest of the group managed to escape and immediately called for help. The police and ambulance arrived at the scene promptly and began their investigation. The police searched the forest using dogs and helicopters, but the attacker had already fled the scene. Despite their best efforts, they were unable to locate him. However, they continued their investigation, gathering evidence and interviewing witnesses in the hopes of identifying the attacker. The incident sent shockwaves throughout the country and sparked widespread media attention. Everyone was asking the same question: who committed this heinous act, and why? The police encouraged anyone who had information to come forward and testify, but the attacker remained at large. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, but there was still no breakthrough in the case. The police continued their search, but as time went by, the trail grew cold. The families of the victims were left without answers, and the country remained on edge, wondering if the attacker would strike again. Years went by, and the incident slowly faded from the public consciousness. The police continued their investigation, but their efforts were hampered by the lack of leads. the case seemed destined to remain unsolved. However, one day a breakthrough finally came. The police received a tip from an anonymous source, claiming to have information about the attacker. The police followed up on the lead and eventually managed to identify the perpetrator. It turned out that the attacker was a disturbed individual who had a history of violent behavior. He had been drinking heavily and smoking in the forest when he stumbled upon the group of tourists. Something about them had triggered his anger, and he had lashed out in a fit of rage. The police arrested the attacker and brought him to trial. He was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. The families of the victims finally had closure, and the country breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that the perpetrator had been brought to justice. In conclusion, the forest attack of 2013 remains a tragic incident in the history of northern Germany. The attack shook the country to its core and left many questions unanswered. However, through the tireless efforts of the police, justice was eventually served, and the families of the victims were able to find closure. The incident serves as a reminder of the importance of vigilance and the need to remain alert to potential threats, even in the most picturesque of settings. My opinion, the forest attack of 2013 is a tragic incident that highlights the need for vigilance and caution in all situations. The tireless efforts of law enforcement authorities in identifying and bringing the perpetrator to justice also underscore the importance of perseverance and commitment in solving such cases. As a young adult, I'd love to go on adventures, so when my friends suggested we go camping in the Canadian woods, I was thrilled. We were a group of 5, and we set up camp in an open clearing. We started cooking dinner as we chatted and laughed, excited for the night ahead. But as darkness fell, strange noises interrupted our peaceful night. At first, we assumed it was just animals in the woods, but the noises grew louder and more persistent, and we realized something was amiss. We could hear whispers and see movement behind the trees, and we grew more and more uneasy. Suddenly we saw them, men in camouflage clothing, approaching us from all sides. We tried to reason with them, but they ignored us and continued to advance towards us. It was clear that we were in grave danger. We decided to run, leaving behind our belongings and making a break for it through the woods. We ran as fast as we could, but we could hear our pursuers closing in. We ran until we could run no more, and we stopped to catch our breath and figure out our next move. It was then that we realized that we were being hunted by poachers. They were after us as if we were animals to be hunted and killed. We knew we had to do something. We decided to return to our camp to get our things and report the incident to the police. We were terrified, but we knew we had no other choice. We approached our camp slowly, making sure not to alert the poachers. We grabbed our things as quickly as we could and made a run for it. We ran through the woods until we found a road and flagged down a car. We called the police and told them what happened. The police arrived on the scene and detained the poachers. They were armed and dangerous, but thankfully, none of us were hurt. We were left shaken and scared, but we were relieved to be alive. It was a close call, and it could have ended much worse. The thought of what could have happened still sends shivers down my spine. But we were lucky, and justice was served. The poachers were convicted and sent to prison for their crimes. After that experience, I never went camping again. The woods may seem peaceful and serene, but they can also be full of danger and unexpected threats. My opinion, based on the story, it is a cautionary tale about the dangers of venturing into the wilderness without proper preparation and awareness. It highlights the importance of being vigilant and staying alert in unfamiliar surroundings, as well as the crucial role that law enforcement plays in ensuring the safety of civilians. It was a beautiful summer day when a group of tourists from the United States set out on an expedition into the vast and dense forests of Queen Victoria National Park in Tanzania. The group consisted of adventurers, nature enthusiasts, and wildlife lovers who wanted to experience the wilderness of Africa up close. Among them was a young woman named Rachel, who hailed from Colorado. She was an ardent lover of nature, and the chance to witness the exotic animals of Africa was a dream come true for her. She was fascinated by the vibrant colors of the birds, the graceful movement of the gazelles, and the sheer power of the lions. The first few days of the expedition were nothing short of spectacular for Rachel. She went on multiple safaris, visited local villages, and hiked through dense forests. However, her life was about to take a drastic turn. One night, Rachel stepped out of her tent camp to go to the bathroom. The moon was high in the sky, and the darkness of the jungle was thick around her. As she finished her business and began to walk back to her tent, she suddenly heard a loud growl. Before she could react, a large lion pounced on her and grabbed her by the neck. The animal began to drag her towards the jungle, and Rachel was helpless to stop it. She screamed and struggled. The lion's grip was too strong. Luckily, other hikers who were nearby heard her cries for help and ran towards her. They screamed and lit flashlights to distract the lion, and Rachel saw an opportunity to break free. With all her strength, she managed to wrestle herself out of the lion's grip, but not before sustaining serious injuries. The hikers immediately called for an ambulance, and Rachel was rushed to the hospital. She had deep wounds on her neck and back, and her body was in a state of shock. The next few weeks were a blur of pain, medications, and hospital visits. Rachel was lucky to survive, but the experience left her scarred for life. The attack was a stark reminder of the dangers of life in the forests of Africa. As the group continued their expedition, everyone was extra cautious and took all possible precautions to avoid any further incidents. Rachel returned to the United States a changed person. She still loved nature, but the experience had made her realize the importance of respecting the power and unpredictability of wildlife. She started a campaign to raise awareness about the need for responsible tourism and the importance of conservation. In conclusion, Rachel's encounter with a lion was a terrifying experience that left her traumatized for life. However, she emerged stronger and wiser from the incident, and her determination to make a positive impact on the world was an inspiration to many. The story is a reminder that nature is beautiful, but it also demands respect and caution. My opinion. This story is a cautionary tale that highlights the importance of respecting the power of nature and taking necessary precautions when exploring the wilderness. It also underscores the need for responsible tourism and conservation efforts to protect the environment and its inhabitants. It was supposed to be an adventure of a lifetime for the group of men who had decided to go on a safari in the forest in southern South Africa in the year 2021. The thrill of seeing the wildlife up close and personal was a dream come true for all of them. They had planned every detail of the trip and were excited to begin their journey. However, their excitement was cut short when one of the participants went missing on the second day of the safari. The group searched frantically for him, but to no avail. Days passed without any leads, and they feared the worst. The police were called in, and a massive search operation began. They combed through the forest, hoping to find any clues that could lead them to the missing man. It was a grueling process that took a toll on everyone involved. But they refused to give up hope. Then, on the fifth day of the search, they found his body. He had been shot and left for dead by the ruthless poachers who have been terrorizing the area. The news of his death sent shockwaves through the group, and they were devastated by the loss of their friend. The police launched an investigation into the matter and soon discovered that local poachers were behind the attack. They had killed the man to steal valuable game from the area. It was a ruthless and senseless act that left everyone reeling. The search for the suspects began, and it was a daunting task for the police. The poachers were elusive and had a network of supporters who helped them evade the law. But the police were determined to bring them to justice. Finally, after months of hard work, the police managed to apprehend the suspects. They were caught red-handed trying to sell the killed animal on the black market. The evidence was overwhelming, and they had no choice but to confess to the crime. The trial was a long and arduous process, but justice was eventually served. The poachers were convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. The group of men who had gone on the safari could finally find closure and begin to heal from the trauma they had experienced. In the end, the tragedy that had befallen them had taught them a valuable lesson. They had learned that the thrill of adventure could come with great risks, and they had to be prepared for the worst. But they also learned that in times of crisis, they could rely on each other and come together to overcome any obstacle. It was a hard-won lesson, but one that they would never forget. My opinion? The story is a tragic reminder of the dangers that come with wildlife tourism and the ruthlessness of poachers. It highlights the importance of responsible and sustainable tourism practices and the need for strict measures to protect the natural world. Above all, it teaches us the value of human life and the power of solidarity in times of crisis.